My name is John Henry, formerly known as El Chino Mien. Today I want to testify about how Christ changed my life, how I went from being a hitman to being a servant of God. When I was young, I remember I never had bad thoughts. At 8 years old, despite coming from a broken home, my greatest desire was to become a doctor. However, life's adversities from an early age shattered my dream, my project, and my initial purpose of being a happy child. In my childhood, the accumulated misfortunes in my life, such as the pain of not having a home with a father and hearing my mother mistreat me, left deep scars of pain in me. At 11 years old, I was still a normal child with bitterness, but with a desire to live. But without having a family life or assuming the typical responsibilities of a child, that bitterness destroyed my dreams and original intentions, thus beginning the destruction of my life. At 12 years old, in an effort to mitigate the misfortune of my life, I started associating with criminals, listening to their dreams and words, their goals and their tragedies. The more I got involved, the more I lost the innocence of a child, developing the character of a monster. At that age, without a mother's love or the responsibility of a father and family, I began to see life on the street among delinquents and bandits as my reality. This life led me to a world of violence and misery where I soon replaced divine dreams and nobility with human bitterness and pain. Many wonder if bad people are born or made. I must tell you, dear brothers, that bad people are born in the image of God, but become bad when life's guidelines are not well established, and through ignorance, we raise children irresponsibly. This was the reality that marked the beginning of my criminal life. I remember that even when I committed my first crime, my hands didn't tremble because of the action itself, but because of the excitement of doing it for the first time. At 13 years old, I went from being a child with dreams to becoming a hitman, known in my country as a child assassin. I committed my first murder to relieve my pain, and from then on, my life filled with tragedies. After that first homicide, my heart became completely hardened. I lost my self-esteem, my dreams, and my motivation, and accepted the tragic offer that humanly mitigated my suffering for life. At 14 years old, I was completely lost, and by 15, my heart had hardened entirely. I was no longer the normal child I used to be. At that age, I began to get more deeply involved in crime, learning to handle weapons and living a life marked by violence. At 16 years old, I started accepting lucrative contracts to commit crimes. At 17, I joined a large gang in Medellin, Colombia, called El Parche Norte, or La Ganga Los Pesos. Upon turning 18, I gained a recognized nickname and started to be known and respected among criminals and hitmen. At 19 years old, not only was I known in Colombia and my neighborhood as a young criminal, but I also began associating with the most famous drug trafficker in the world. At that same age, my life had completely transformed into that of a hitman, and I was nicknamed El Chino. Many judge my tragic life without truly knowing how it was formed in an environment of misfortune. At 19, our crimes and my life in the Colombian mafia made headlines. I came to lead a gang of 126 killers ready to kill anyone, and around 5,000 people were waiting for the opportunity to work with the most important drug trafficker in the world. This was the reality in Colombia in the 1980s, specifically in 1987 and 1988, where we not only stood out in the criminal field but also music. When carrying out orders from powerful men, I would find moments to retreat to my room and remember my childhood. I remembered how I promised my grandmother, who took care of me and suffered from arthritis, that I would become a doctor to cure her. After the parties and celebrations where I was praised, I would lock myself alone to cry my sadness, observing the image of my broken family and reflecting on how I never had a father or mother or a true family. This loneliness drove me further into crime. I became more insensitive and caused even greater destruction in me. Despite having a heart-hardened criminal life, inside I remained that noble child who wished for a normal life. Not a life of crime, but one any other child could have had. However, it was already too late to recover a life I could never have. The world I had clung to consumed me day after day, leaving deeper and deeper marks on my heart. In this world, I achieved fame and power and forged a human destiny. But I want to tell the youth that I lost everything, and I lost it because I never truly wanted to be a criminal. Over time, I began to experience what it meant to have fame and power. I liked that in the neighborhoods, people would say, "There goes Pablo's criminal, El Chino." I was passionate about the criminal life because it mitigated the hardships I lived as a child. But I must tell you, brother, that even though I achieved a high level of life in the human sense, becoming the most important criminal under Pablo, I enjoyed being seen with my gang, with guys like Lucky, Tyson, Popeye, and listening to people say, "Those are the worst bastards here." I lived in internal misfortune. I enjoyed receiving good contracts because it eased the bitterness of my childhood. I understand what it is like to live with power like Escobar. There were moments when I would distance myself from everything and felt such desperation and frustration for not feeling fulfilled as an ordinary person and being marked as a criminal. There were days when I played Russian roulette up to 7 times, trying to kill myself, wanting to shoot myself in the head. This situation led me to a deep depressive state. There were days when I didn't even want to bathe. I isolated myself, smelled bad, didn't want to continue living. I planted in my mind the desire to end my life, to surrender to deadly games. I remember days when I would go to the top of a hill called Sofia, hoping that a truck would run me over while I was on my motorcycle. I played Russian roulette, firing a .38 revolver, trying to shoot myself in the head several times. I pulled the trigger, but I never managed to shoot myself. Today, looking back, I see all that reality. Why? Because there was an unknown promise to me. It's when the Bible says God does not care about the broken vase. Even in a broken vase, God has plans for the one who is broken. I continued my life and became the most influential man Pablo had created. In my neighborhood and my country, everyone knew my story, so impacting that I would sometimes earn up to $6.5 million per crime or attack. Much money, but the shocking thing came with my last contract at the end of '88, amid the escalation of extradition. I was sent to carry out a job in several places in Colombia. I carried out my first important action, one of the biggest in Colombia, with my team. During the operation, I accidentally dropped my ID and military book. The next day, when I returned satisfied with the success of the action, my name and nickname appeared on the front pages, personally identified. This alerted Colombia, which pointed me out for the incident, a mistake with my personal documents. This worried Pablo since I was crucial to him. You understand? But at the same time, he saw a great opportunity and decided to send me to a place called Puerto Leticia, located in a jungle between Manaus and Tabatinga, and another place called Benjamin Constant. I settled there for several months. As you wanted. I had people there. It was necessary to hide because my name was exposed, and I would be tracked by agents of Operation Exterminio, a project of the DAS in Colombia, with various security agencies that used to execute criminals, an act known in Colombia as El Paseo. This was the reality. I moved to Brazil, but there began my desperation because every time I looked in the mirror, I felt God was speaking to me about my reality. God showed me my misery. Although I still didn't fully understand his designs, I spent 3 months in the most violent places of my life, known as caletas. What are caletas? They are often underground places up to 10 floors below the jungle where cocaine is processed. These places have houses with everything necessary, including color TVs and satellite dishes, all under the jungle. I felt safe there. I didn't need to go to the surface. However, desperation began to invade me, and it urged me to kill myself, telling me I was a waste. I began to contemplate less violent ways of suicide. I remember that, especially in the kitchens, there were always between 50 and 60 men. I would wake up early and never allowed myself to be served. I was always looking for a fight for any reason, and after fighting, I would usually say, "Let's kill each other outside." I wanted someone to shoot me in the head to end this misfortune. The people who knew about this called Paula and informed her, "Boss, El Chino is crazy. He's losing control. He's wasting the cocaine, and all he does is consume bazuco excessively over and over." They told Pablo, "He consumes up to 70 Maduros with cheese daily, comes out completely drugged. He wanted to attack the people here." The guy was shaking, and they told me, "Please, go to Brazil. There, they will take better care of you." So I went to Brazil, given their great appreciation for me, since they had known me since I was 9 years old. That reality intensified with an almost paternal feeling in Brazil, and I continued to go crazy. I started spending a lot of money renting luxury suites for $2,500 to $3,000 a night, causing problems left and right, willing to end anyone who irritated me. I think the plan was to live a life destroyed by circumstances, a horrible life. There came a time when a Panamanian said to me one afternoon, "Buddy, let's go to Copacabana Beach. Let's rent something nice there. There's less alcohol, less crack and cocaine. We'll stay there, and you'll see something called the dancing sun in Copacabana." Do you know what it is? It's a phenomenon where the sun shines intensely over Copacabana. The man added, "If you take a trip, wake up at 5 a.m., and you'll see the sun rising right in front of you. It's incredible. You'll start seeing Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. It will be an intense experience." I said, "Well, that sounds fascinating." The influence of my friend was strong, and I spent that entire night immersed in a mix of crack and food, brother, and the reaction to the crack was violent. It completely engulfed me. In the morning, I woke up early, put on a t-shirt, and there were people by my side taking care of me because I paid well and thought that at any moment they might try to kill me. Look, brother, when the effect wore off, it was 6 a.m., and by 7 a.m., I still hadn't seen the dancing sun. But around 9:30 a.m., I noticed a lady approaching me, even though my people didn't react. Do you understand? I don't know how she got to me, and the woman with a book in her hand approached me and said, "You're a mess, crazy." She pointed at me intensely and continued, "Inside, you're broken." She began to tell me, "You hate your mother, you hate your father, you've wanted to commit suicide. I don't know where you come from or where you're going. I don't know whom you serve, but I know you have power. But I want to tell you something, friend. No matter how terrible your life has been, I know someone who can change it. I know someone, brother, who can restore you, who can bring about a complete transformation, a radical change." The woman continued, "No matter how many scars you carry from your childhood, from when your mother gave birth to you, I know someone who works with your original design, someone who knows how to handle your original plan." When I saw the woman so determined, she confronted me and said, "That's Jesus of Nazareth. They know him as the potter, the restorer, the one who transforms and does it right." To that I responded, "Wow, she's energetic." A friend who was with me asked, "Boss, should we confront her? Should we confront her aggressively? She's insulting us." I replied, "No, let her be. She's crazy." The woman then looked at me intensely and walked away in front of my group. Today, I think she was a member of the Zion Church. I sat there thinking about the dancing sun phenomenon, but I admitted something true. This woman is like a version of Walter Mercado. She interpreted everything about me. She knew my life. She's crazy. In my head, I thought, crazy, definitely crazy. My friend handed me a marijuana cigarette, and I continued under the effect. I said, "No, I don't have the mood for parties, brother. I'll stay here in the room. You guys go." I stayed watching TV, but I felt a very strange depression in my life. And look, brother, I love plantains with cheese. But at that moment, I had no appetite. In fact, every time I tried to focus on something, I saw the woman pointing at me, questioning me. Why didn't I confront her more strongly? Why didn't I react badly? Why didn't I act? But something inside me told me, "You couldn't hurt her, brother." And so a week passed, and I saw the woman everywhere, even in my soup. I wondered, is this an illusion? Did they put something in this? Am I seeing things that aren't real? What's happening? I would lie down and see her again and again. I wanted to erase her from my sight. I got up, and everyone talked about me. "You're amazing, friend." Today, as I share it, I'm amazed at the party they prepared for me. But after the party, the emptiness I felt was that even though it hadn't cost them anything, I felt it deeply. I started to feel strange. What's happening to me? I've never felt this way. I felt a deep sorrow. They had organized a great party at the estate. There were beautiful women and all kinds of drugs, but nothing satisfied me. I felt really bad. Look at how shocking it is. The woman was still in my mind. I constantly wondered, what's happening to me? After the party, I decided to go out without an escort. I told my friends, "Go ahead, I'll take a free route." I headed toward Highway 70 toward Asia. As I advanced along Avenue 70 in Medellin, which leads to the outskirts of the city, I stopped at a quiet corner and entered a bar to have a Cuba Libre. But soon, I started feeling very unwell, really unwell. When I got on the bike, I lost consciousness and everything turned dark. They gave me a drink, known to me, and tied me up with a plastic rope known as a bag, and subjected me to torture for about a week. At that moment, the only thing people commented was, "What is this guy made of? Let's finish him." My mother began to realize I had been arrested and took action. But I was transferred from Medellin to a place called La Adorada, far from the glory years with Pablo. Now I was in the hands of my enemies. When that reality hit my soul, it was devastating. I remember that he would teach about those gods. You were born Catholic, Apostolic, and Roman, not in vain, but Roman. He advised me, when you face problems, son, invoke Sancudo, Sancocho, Conchalupis, San Martin de Porres. In that desperate situation, I thought, they're going to finish me off here, and it's not a joke. What can I do? Having been subjected to severe torture, I thought, let's see if my mother's saints work. In this belief, offerings are usually made to the saints. So I told Chango, if you help me at this moment, the cartel will not worry. They only need to donate to the missionaries here. You are protected. Purgatory is for that. They intervene for anyone until the end. We at the Mass will take them out of there after they finish them off, and we follow the advice. The priest drove a Mercedes-Benz and everything, so I thought, this is what it is. I told him, you told me that if I'm killed, I'll go to heaven. I've always given you a lot of money, but look at the incredible thing. I continued forward. They were preparing to finish me off. They're going to kill him. At that moment, knowing that all those saints were useless, what my mother had taught me since I was a child wasn't working. They were broken. Chango wasn't going to save me, even if I offered him $500,000 to perform a miracle. But think about the beauty in that process. I remembered the crazy woman who told me about someone who could change everything, who could transform me and perform a miracle in my life. Jesus, I want to tell you something. The first time I really perceived Jesus as someone who could favor me, even if just for one more second. So I made about 5 hasty pleas. The crazy woman also played an important role in this. The time came when they took me out to execute me, and I couldn't believe it because look at how impressive it was. When I felt that people were releasing me, they started to untie my hands. They were already ready to kill me. I hadn't even turned 20 yet. My birthday was days away. But observe, I began to perceive something, to process the situation in my dreams. Memories saw my evident transformation. It would still be the misfortune that society discards. But think about it, it's deep. It brought me down from my high horse and showed me the death sentence. How much my misery needed to be redeemed. I continued walking and began to understand that Jesus could give me one more second. Don't forget that they were about to finish me off. But when they finally took me out, I was scared because I was surrounded by people. But at that moment, I learned the greatest lesson of my life when I faced the cost of everything. I remember one of the great philosophies that got lost along the way. Later, I changed. However, every time I advanced in crime and power, I deceived myself. But I knew that it was Jesus who made me reflect. And after all that, I wanted to get out. The first time I understood the message that the crazy woman was talking about was precisely then, that Jesus has the power to transform lives, to save us from terrible situations, and to give us one more chance.